Hey, virtual rockets. I know we got a little mixed up on our cursive pages between us teachers and you kids at home and our time off. So we're going to jump back in today and we're going to go ahead and look at page 83. And that is letter V and Z. If you've already done that page, it is totally fine. Go ahead and turn in what you have done. If that's too far ahead for you, go ahead and do the video with me today. And then if you would like to go back and practice on your own, that's an option you always have. So I'm going to switch our camera so that we can see our handwriting book. And this is our Danielian page 83. And there's our page. And it looks like we start with the letter V. Cursive V and Z do not look like manuscript V and Z. And remember, manuscript just means our print writing. So our normal separated letters. Begin cursive V and Z with an overhill stroke. Cursive V ends with a side stroke. Trace and write the letters. If you have not practiced cursive in a while, that is okay. We're going to remember how to do all of this together. And luckily, we get to trace before we practice on our own. So let's zoom in on our letter V, sorry. Overhill means I go to that dotted line before coming back down. Back up to the dotted. That side stroke is just a little line to the side stroke. Something that I notice that's very different about our print V than our cursive V is that we don't see that point at the end of our V. It's soft on the end, kind of like a U would be. Let's keep practicing. Overhill, down, up, side stroke. Overhill, down, up, side stroke. And we're keeping all of this between the dotted and that bottom red line. Overhill, down, up, side stroke, side stroke. And then I like to trace the one on the end sometimes just to kind of remind my hand. And something that I'm noticing, which you heard me say just a moment ago, is that this looks a lot like an uppercase N. But instead of having those points, it's kind of noodly. So that's the shape we're looking for, but we don't want those points like you see on an N, just like we don't want the points you would normally see on a print or manuscript V. All right, let's try some on our own, starting at the bottom line. Dotted, red, dotted, side stroke. Dotted, red, dotted, side stroke. Make sure that you start at that bottom red line. Do your best to not go over too much or under too much. Up, down, and we end in a side stroke. And that side stroke is really something that would help our eyes see that this is not an N, because an N would not have that side stroke. Side stroke. Take a look at the work you did and circle the one you think looks the best. Think that this one looks pretty good. This one is much too pointy, I think. That looks too much like a print V, which is not supposed to look that way. All right, moving on to letter Z. Z is pretty wild. We're going to want to make sure we take our time practicing this one. We're going to start at the dot or the bottom red line. We go up to the dotted with that overhill stroke, just like we did for our V. red, and then it makes this crazy loop like our Y has and comes back around. It looks nothing like a print Z. This is one of those shapes that you're just going to have to practice a lot to get right. So this would be a good place to pause the video if you need to, and you can retrace these as many times as you need to. It's that same overhill stroke, but you're not coming straight down. You're coming down to the left. Wrap around like your Y. Red line, dotted line. Down to the left. Wrap around like the Y, making sure that my loop goes all the way down to that blue line. Not too far over, not too far under. And I do see that my camera's jumping around a little bit. I'm sorry about that. I will try to get that fixed before my next video. It's been doing that all day. Makes it hard to focus. Red dotted and around. This overhill stroke is a lot like what we've been doing. And our wraparound is something that we're probably pretty comfortable with from our Y. It's this weird shape in the middle. So before you wrap around, you have this funny looking, like an M melting. And then it comes down and around. Okay, again, that's one that you're going to want to practice tracing. You've got this one over here. You've got this one over here. You might want to get a slate and practice because it is a crazy shape. All right, let's go ahead and do our sentences. We have 2 today. A lazy day. And I see that letter Z that we'll practice. Trace first. Our A goes up and over and back around. L, A. Here's our Z. Down to the left, down, up, overhill stroke. That brings us into our Y, who also loops around. D, straight back down, up and over. Y, we need our overhill stroke before we make our Y shape. A lazy day. A, lazy, making sure the little loop of the L is above the dotted line. Y. D, A, up and over Y. And remember, Mrs. Thomason usually does this in pen so that you guys can see it better, but I highly suggest doing this in pencil so that you don't get this jumping around from trying to cross out or redo if something goes wrong. Highly suggest pencil. If you're having trouble with a letter, practice on a slate or practice on a surface that's not right here so we can keep our letters nice and clean, because remember that Z, he's all over the place, so we want to make sure that looks nice and neat. A lovely view. A. Our L stays above the dotted line. O. Here's our V. Up, down, up. I don't have a side stroke because I'm going right into the letter E. So instead of just going straight to the side, I want to make sure I connect to the letter E. L. Overhill. Y. Up and over, down to the red, making sure I don't have a point on the bottom because this is not a print V, it's a cursive V. My little side stroke takes me into my I, E. 1, 2, 3, side stroke makes a W. All right, let's try this one out. A, L, O. This one doesn't go up and over as much because I'm coming from the O. E, L, Y. Up and over, down to the red, back up. My side stroke takes me right into my I. E, 1, 2, 3, side stroke, view. Feel free to pause and replay as needed. For today, I want you to turn in page 83. On Friday, we will look at page 84. So just as a reminder, if this is not where you are at, I apologize for our confusion, but go ahead and submit this page for today so that we can all hopefully catch up and be good to go by next week. Because coming up, we've got some other crazy letters. We've got S and R. So we've got some more letters that are going to take lots of practice. So I want to make sure we can do that together. Have an awesome day, guys. I look forward to seeing your work.